How does the last few weeks of rugby change the picture in terms of British and Irish Lions selection? It's time to revisit the squad, and I do have some changes I'm going to make to my squad, and I'm sure you're going to have some thoughts. And please get stuck in the comments down below. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers, and it is 20 days as I record this until Andy Farrell will be naming his squad to tour Australia this summer. Bring it on. And I'm going to give you the chance as well to be in Australia, a trip of a lifetime with Genting Casino. And this is flights, it's accommodation, it's tickets to test matches, all sorts thrown in as well. And all by clicking on and signing up through the link in the description. But I'll give you more information on that in a minute. Let me just remind you of how this works. So this is something I've been coming back to regularly, and the picture has been changing through the Six Nations, and now following a couple of rounds of Champions Cup and Challenge Cup knockout games, what difference do those big matches do to the selection? I've based this on a squad of 41. Andy Farrell can pick basically whatever he wants. This squad of 41 is what the British and Irish Lions did in the 2017 tour to New Zealand. It was 37 in 2021, but that was a COVID-affected tour. So I've gone back to these numbers. 23 forwards, 18 backs is how I split it. And I did have 10 front row. That is going to change. And there are a few little bits of tinkering I'm going to do. Starting with the prop position, which was pretty settled for the most part. On the loosehead side, Andrew Porter, Ellis Genge, P.S. Schoeman. I don't see Nicky Smith, Finn Baxter or anyone else of stopping those three from being selected, barring injury or a dramatic, unprecedented loss of form for any of them. And on the tight head side, Xander Fagerson, Tadhg Furlong and Will Stewart were the best three. I have had Finlay Bealham in previous picks, and part of that was because Tadhg Furlong has been injured. So I thought maybe having an extra player, someone who can be a part-time loosehead prop as well, and Andrew Porter can play on both sides as well. But with Tadhg Furlong coming back fit and looking decent for Leinster, albeit not at his absolute best, but still more than good enough to be on the tour and potentially to work his way back to a test starting spot, I don't need Finlay Bealham. And there are other positions where I would rather use that extra spot. As for hooker, I'm going to keep it as it was, with Dan Sheehan, the standout selection, followed by Jamie George and Dewi Lake. Ronan Kelleher and Luke Cowan-Dickie are both pushing hard. I do think, though, where there are 50-50 calls, where there are players that are very, very close and not a lot to choose between them, I do think Andy Farrell could and possibly should, where everything else is equal, this is the pinnacle for a player, so it shouldn't rob anyone of a spot that they've deserved. And Ronan Kelleher would feel like he maybe deserves it, but I would say it's such a toss-up between him and Dewi Lake. Go for the guy that plays for Wales, because they're not going to be well represented, and it is, it is a squad that's meant to reflect the four nations, and Wales aren't going to have many players that will make the squad. So I would just stick with Dewi Lake and leave it there. Let me know if you disagree. As for locks, I've got 5, and it was Tadhg Beirne, Joe McCarthy, James Ryan from Ireland, Maro Itoje and Ollie Chessum from England were the 5. George Martin, his season is now over. His injury, he's not going to be back before the end of the season, and I do think that may rule him out. I think there's a possibility that if Scott Cummings can get back and fit and start playing for Glasgow in some big games in the next few weeks, he could still oust James Ryan from that squad, or possibly Scott Cummings could be selected on his historic form over James Ryan. And there's a chance that George Martin could get it, but those are the 5 that I would go for. As for the back row, this is where it gets interesting. Now, on the last one, the last time I did this pick, off the back of the Six Nations, I thought Ben Curry's form was so good that he had to be selected. And it was at the expense of Josh van der Flier, who was amazing through the autumn. I didn't think he was at his usual best through the Six Nations. And there are so many players who are playing so well. It is so hard to select. However, I do have to say, firstly, the one change I'm going to make to this is Henry Pollock. I'm going to put him on the board, and I've put him in place of Aaron Wainwright, who I don't see being selected. Henry Pollock's form for Northampton Saints, so good that he deserves to be considered. But I am going to put Josh van der Flier back in, because his performances for Leinster the last couple of weeks, he's been a machine. And I feel a little silly for even nudging him out. But like I say, that is just the quality of players that there are in that position when you have Ben Curry, who was unreal in the Six Nations, Rory Darge, Ben Earl can play there as well, and he was immense through the Six Nations. Jack Morgan, amazing in a poor Welsh team as well. And look, that's 9 players, but there is an extra spot opened up by Finlay Bealham. So that looks good to me. The thing is, Jack Willis as well. I mean, he's been captaining Toulouse. He looks amazing for Stade Toulousain, and he's got a Champions Cup semi-final against Bordeaux, which will be just a few days before Andy Farrell selects his side. I do think, with the fact that Jack Willis is a genuine 7, but can also play 6 and has played plenty of rugby this season and in recent seasons at number 8. I mean, he's so good. How can you... And we have had Andy Farrell saying everyone is being considered, even players playing in France. So, but that's 10. Which one of these players would you lose? There's a nice balance there. Tom Curry, Jamie Ritchie can both play 6. Jack Willis can play 6. Rory Darge, Josh van der Fleer, and Jack Morgan 7. But Jack Morgan can play in other positions. Ben Earl can play 7, but mainly plays 8 for England. Him and Caelan Doris are good 8s. Do you need Jack Conan? He's a different type of player, a slightly bigger body, can run in heavy traffic, so I think he's really useful. But potentially Jack Conan could be the one that makes way. Is there too many 7s? That means you don't need Ben Curry. It's so hard to pick. Does Jamie Ritchie miss out because Jack Conan could play on the blindside flank? I see Jamie Ritchie, Jack Conan, or Ben Curry missing out if you pick Jack Willis. The big issue with Jack Willis is Toulouse are going to be involved in the playoffs in the top 14. The top 14 final is on the same day as... Is it on the same day as the first game in Australia, or is it on the same day as that game against Argentina? Bottom line is, if you play for Toulouse in the top 14 final, or anyone in the top 14 final, you will be missing a chunk of the start of that tour. You'll only have a couple of games to get yourself in test contention. Would that mean that you don't take Jack Willis? So hard to pick. I am going to... For now, and I may change my mind on this is the reason I do this, come back to it, and I might be informed by some of your thoughts in the comments as well. I'm going to nudge Ben Curry out and Jack Willis in. But Jack Conan and Jamie Ritchie, in my squad at least, are quite lucky at the minute and are borderline, and Ben Curry could be back in because he was so good in the Six Nations. It feels cruel. But there you go. That is the quality in the back row. Some amazing players, in my squad at least, are missing out. It's down to Andy Farrell, and he's got 20 days to finalise his picks. That is the forwards. And that is the squad I've picked there. Porter, Genge, Schumann, Sheehan, George and Lake, tight head prop, Ferguson, Stewart, Furlong, second rows, Itoje, Byrne, McCarthy, Chesham, James Ryan, Tom Curry, Jack Willis, Jamie Ritchie, more as your 6 options, Van der Fleer, Morgan, Darge as your more 7s, and guys that can play 8, Doris, Earl, Conan. Pretty good that, isn't it? And that leaves you with 9 Irishmen, 8 Englishmen, 4 Scots and 2 Welshmen. What would you do different? Let me know in the comments down below. And with the forwards done, let me tell you how you could be out there in Australia with Genting Casino and just enjoy the trip of a lifetime. So you would be flown out from the UK to Australia and back. You would have 4 nights accommodation in Melbourne, tickets to go and see the second test, 7 nights bed and breakfast accommodation in Sydney, and tickets to go and see the final test. You'll get access to Lions events. You'll be looked after by the Lions supporters group, so there'll be all sorts of stuff going on. And you can win this simply by getting in the draw and clicking the link in the description down below. Depending on where you are, this is open to people from the UK and Ireland. Click on the right link down below, click through, sign up, get yourself in the draw, and the very, very best of luck. Obviously, over 18s only, begambleaware.org. Good luck with that. I'll remind you of it again, but go get yourself signed up. As for scrum halves, let's move on into the back line then. And scrum half, I'm going to leave it as it was before with Jameson Gibson Park, the clear first choice, with Ben White and Alex Mitchell backing him up. Now, Ben White is another player affected by, well, he's at Toulon, who are doing very well in the top 14, going to make the playoffs. Will that affect his selection? again, having said that, where there is a 50-50 call, maybe you edge for the guy who's from Wales. Thomas Williams is so good that maybe he is a 50-50 call, and possibly that's a reason that he should and will get on the plane to Australia. It's a tight one, that, but I think it's going to be 3 from 4. Of course, Andy Farrell could take all 4 if he wants to. Now, last time I picked the fly halves, I picked Finn Russell, Marcus Smith, George Ford. I just thought it needed a bit of experience. So I didn't think that learning on the job is something you do with the British and Irish Lions. And my assessment is that would be effectively what would be happening with Finn Smith, who looks amazing, but has had very, very little rugby for England, really. And Sam Prendergast, exactly the same. Looked fantastic, but is still very green, pun intended. So for that reason, I went with George Ford, 99 caps to his name. And, you know, he might be the midweek fly half, but that experience I thought would be really useful. Of course, Sam Prendergast and Finn Smith have been playing very, very well in big Champions Cup knockout games. And there is the fact that Johnny Sexton is now on board as a coach with the British and Irish Lions. And that makes you think, the Johnny Sexton selection makes you think, well, Sam Prendergast's going then. His protege, the man taking the mantle at Leinster and with Ireland in his number 10 jersey, and Owen Farrell could be going, because Johnny Sexton has said when he was interviewed last year, who would you take? And he said, in a heartbeat, Owen Farrell. The guy's incredible. And he's been with him on 2 tours with the British and Irish Lions. So no one knows Owen Farrell better than Johnny Sexton. So that could be the conclusion you draw from Sexton's appointment. I would still go with Finn Russell over Owen Farrell, personally, just on form and on merit. But Finn Smith has to be considered. And here is the thought. Johnny Sexton, we don't know what his exact role with the British and Irish Lions as a coach is going to be. One thought I've been having has Andy Farrell brought Johnny Sexton into the fold to effectively be the fly half coach? Not normally a role that is done in rugby, but potentially it's one you would do if you were thinking you were going to be picking some very inexperienced 10s. And Marcus Smith's only been on 1 tour before, and that was the last tour to South Africa, but he only came in when Finn Russell got injured, so he was a reserve that came in late. Finn Smith and Sam Prendergast, if you were going to pick these 2, and maybe they would be your first 2 choices, would it make sense to have someone really, really experienced as a dedicated fly half coach, as a resource that they could use to help them through it? That might be what Andy Farrell is thinking with Johnny Sexton. So this could well be the lineup of 10s, perhaps. Perhaps it's both the Smiths and Sam Prendergast. Personally, I would go with Finn Russell still. I do think Marcus Smith I would go with. And on the form with Leinster the last few weeks, I would nudge Sam Prendergast back in, especially with Johnny Sexton being a coach on the tour. I think that could work. It's going to be really interesting to watch, and it's a tough call. One of the toughest. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. As for centre, I picked 5, and I'm going to keep it exactly as it is. Aki and Tuipulotu to cover 12, Jones and Ringrose covering 13, and Robbie Henshaw, who can do a bit of both. And the back 3, this is another really, really tough area. Some prime selections the last time I did it, and I'm going to keep it the same. On the left wing, Duhan van der Merwe and James Lowe as options. On the right wing, Tommy Freeman and Darcy Graham. At fullback, Blair Kinghorn and Hugo Keenan, with Elliot Daly, who did so well for England during the Six Nations, and he can play wing, fullback and centre, which is very, very useful. So, I mean, that could be Blair Murray if he wanted to go with a bit more of a Maverick and Welsh selection as more of a utility back. Doesn't look like Emmanuel Faye-Waboso is going to be back and fit. So, Elliot Daly. Of course, George Furbank has come back and is available, can slot in at 10. And is a really good 15 as well. So if you wanted 3 out-and-out 15s, that might be the way to go. But I'm going to stick with it as it is. Meaning, the backs are there. Gibson Park, Mitchell White, Russell Smith, Prendergast, Tuipulotu and Aki, Jones, Ringrose, Henshaw, Lowe, van der Merwe, Freeman, Graham, Daly, and Keenan and Kinghorn, making that 7 Scots, 7 Irish, 4 Englishmen, and no Welshmen in the back line. Overall, that makes the numbers 16 Irishmen, 12 Englishmen, 11 Scots, and 2 Welshmen. Far from the thing that people are saying, it's going to be the Irish Lions. Far from it. And actually, when I pick a 23-man squad, the last time I did it, and if I get myself out of the way, the last time I did it, this was the 23-man squad that I selected with, yes, there's 7 Irishmen in the starting lineup, but there is a healthy dose of Scots, especially in the back line, and a few Englishmen in the forward pack. I am going to make a change to that 23-man squad, however, based on form. And Tommy Freeman is playing so well that I have to include him. And he is, I mean, it's so hard to pick between Keenan and Kinghorn at fullback. I kind of wussed out a little bit and just put Kinghorn on the wing, where he plays a lot for Toulouse. And he's so good, I have to include him. But the way Tommy Freeman is playing, it's forcing me to have to maybe reconsider and just, what's that phrase? Excuse my language, shit or get off the pot when it comes to Keenan or Kinghorn. Because Tommy Freeman could well be the man in the 14 jersey for the British and Irish Lions. And then you're going to have to pick between one of them and maybe put the other one on the bench. In fact, Kinghorn on the bench would be amazing in the 23 shirt, wouldn't he? Because he covers 10, wing, and fullback to a very, very high level. That might be a shout, actually. But there you go. That is my 23-man squad. The other player pushing hard is Josh van der Fleer to get back into the starting lineup. Ben Earl was so good in the Six Nations, though. I've stuck with him for now, but Josh van der Fleer carries on, and in another big Champions Cup semi-final game in a few weeks, does the job, then he could well be in. But there we go. Let me know what you think. Those are my thoughts. Leave your comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up. Hit subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. And I will do this again before May the 8th, when Andy Farrell will pick his squad.